Welcome to Musicians versus the World, the podcast where we explore aspects of music and musician life that may not have been covered in music school. I am your host, Christine Smith, and today we are talking with composer and record producer Prateek Rajagopal. We'll be exploring his new project, In the Current of Being, and how he balances the novel with the familiar when he's creating his music. Born in Oman and raised in India, Prateek Rajagopal is a film composer and producer whose work spans The Mandalorian, Creed 3, and Trolls Band Together. As executive producer at KOST AI, he scored both In the Current of Being and Venice 2023 and South by Southwest winner Body of Mine. He's currently producing Eric Andre's next album and collaborates closely with Bobby Kurlick. He is also the songwriter for India's death metal export Gutslit. And so I'm so excited to chat with him. So Prateek, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Musicians versus the World.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you. I have been learning about you and your career and your music, which is very varied and diverse and very creative. So I'm really excited to talk to you. Before we get into these really innovative projects you're working on, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you became a musician?
Yeah, sure. I'm born and raised in a small country, Oman. It's like in the Middle East, and then I moved to India, after to do my college, and over there I was playing in death metal bands, and I was very interested in metal music specifically. My brother got me into all of it, but I didn't like anything else really. I was just like, oh, metal, metal, metal. That's the only thing I wanted to do. So in India, I went and, to do a business degree. And on the side, I found myself just naturally, I ended up playing in bands and, one thing led to another. Eventually, I found myself, performing all over the world with one of India's premier death metal bands called Gutslit. And I was kind of, I've been with them since 2012, 2013. And we released records, toured all over, and did the thing. At some point I realized, wait, like this, obviously this tool life, it doesn't pay it, it's too much of a grind mindset for very little. And you put in a lot of work to like release records and promote it. And then you want to make sure it doesn't slip under the radar. And I thought, you know what, I want to try something different. Eventually I kind of started dabbling with ad music and jingles in India while doing I was working at a bank at the time after my degree. And I was like, hey, I kind of like scoring. It felt very challenging. It felt very, like the scope for growth was a lot because one day you're writing jazz music, one day you're writing classical music, and you don't really know what the brief's going to be. So you're kind of just going into it and you're just scoring whatever genre. But the problem is, yeah.
Oh, yeah. My one question is, so you're working at a bank, but then scoring jingles at the same time?
Pretty much.
How did you find work with the jingles if you're working at a bank full time?
At that point, I had a lot of contacts in the industry through my band. And,
Gotcha.
my sound engineer at the time, live sound engineer, he used to write a lot of jingles. And
Gotcha.
one day we were just chatting backstage and he was like, do you want to do this? Do you want to help me out? And I'm like, sure. So I'm like, okay, cool, let's figure it out. And then I did that, but soon realized I didn't know anything. I only knew metal music. I didn't know
Oh,
theory. I didn't know like how to play the piano. I was just a producer, mixer, like guitar player, but very much working from emotion and feel. And
okay.
I realized, okay, if I had to score, it requires a lot of technical skills, like musically, sound and technical skills, which I didn't really have. So that's when I started looking to apply for universities abroad to really hone in on those skills because I figured I'm
Okay.
like, oh, I really want to do this, but I want to do it at a much bigger scale. I want to have a bigger impact. And I always have had an inclination to being an artist, and my inspirations are always very artistic, creative, like, people who push the envelope of culture and, they might be underground, but they're like the musician's musician.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of, I applied to schools all over the world and got into USC's film scoring program. And,
Wow.
life has fully, it really took a big turn after that program because they all worked in the industry. And soon after graduating, I pretty much got a job, working as an assistant, composer's assistant, which, it has a lot of different varied skills, from writing to technical stuff to stemming and,
Mm,
like admin, it's everything.
yeah.
Producing music. I did that for 2.5 years and then took a little bit of a break for about 4 to 5 months because that's the period where I worked on a lot of projects
Mm.
like, Creed, Mandalorian, and Trolls. And there was this show called Fairfax on Amazon. And did all of that and realized, wait, I feel I'm kind of like lost in the system a little bit now. I want to go and
Okay.
find myself again. And took a little bit of a break and then found myself now, over the last year working with Bobby Krilic while working on a lot of my own projects on the side. So that's kind of the short-ish version. I've lived many lives. Yeah.
Yes, that is amazing. So now when you were with your band, it was mostly by feel you were learning everything,
Yeah.
and you had to learn all of the technical things that you need to learn for film scoring and for jingles and things. So has your approach to music making changed since, I mean, I guess it's kind of circular because now you're kind of trying to get back into your own artistic side of it as well. So now that you're back to that artistic side, do you feel like your approach has now changed after all of this experience?
100%. I think,
Okay.
you know, when you're writing purely from feel, you're kind
Mm-hmm.
of following just like certain tropes, certain things that you like. And it's interesting, it's a blessing and a curse, because you end up with more creative ideas potentially, but you also might have similar ideas, which don't really work if a director or a producer or even a, artist you're working with in the studio, they're like, hey, I want something like this.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, wait, now I can pull out my technical chops. So I think what has changed is I've become a lot more aware about music. The way I listen is very different. Um,
Hmm.
the way I compose now, it's this balance of using a lot of feel, but also having a lot of technique and using that when I need to. Uh,
Yes. Okay.
so yeah, I feel like process keeps evolving, and now I'm definitely at the stage where I'm back to experimenting. I'm back to like, you know, um, using different sounds, instruments, and just coming up with a vision for a project. For every project, there has to be a vision. Then I use the technique to kind of get there.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. And so the technique has just given you more tools and
absolutely,
yeah, more of a palette for
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Okay. So you have your vision. And for example, in the current state, in the current of being, your new project is very experimental, and you did some really interesting sound design for that. You did some electric current based sound design.
yep.
And I've taken a lot of music classes. I've never learned anything about electric current sound design. How did you learn about that? Is that something that you've kind of come up with on your own, or um, where did you even come up with the idea of doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Synthesizers, I've always been into a lot of electronic music, uh,
Yeah,
and mostly a lot of experimental electronic computer generated ideas,
right.
and I started to get into hardware synthesis. So,
Okay.
patching like my modular rig and coming up with interesting sounds, but literally, when you're making a sound, it's literal electric current, like a sine wave or a triangle wave, and it translates in a similar way. So the sound of electricity is easy, at least once you have the experience, to kind of create on a machine like that. And so
Okay.
what I did is I patched sounds together and then recorded like a bunch of loops into my
Okay.
DAW. And then from there, I just chopped things up, pitched things, and kind of found a way of, okay, this now sounds musical, even though it's electricity. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes even sound, you're sitting by the ocean and the waves have like a rhythm, like everything has rhythm, everything has like a feeling.
Hmm.
So I took those loops and I just looped it, and I was just cutting things up till I felt like there was a rhythm, there was an emotion over there with the sound.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How long would it take you to find the right sound?
I think for this project, it was probably like in a day I figured it all out, but sometimes it can take maybe 3 days, sometimes it can take an hour. It's so
Yeah,
hard to predict the creative process, which is what I love about it. It's like, it's so random, but this specifically was like a day, I think. Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that seems like a perfect, kind of a perfect example of you using your technique with electronic music and then you're learning with that, and then also kind of bringing in that gut feeling that you were talking about.
100%. It's always about like what moves you, you know? And for me, I have this policy for every project where, or every scene or every cue, it's like, even if something feels 1% off to you, like I just listen to myself. I'm like, no, like start over, or like, this is not okay, this bar to this bar. I just delete and I start again
Gotcha.
till it feels right. So
Okay.
yeah.
So when you're just, riding on the bus or walking down the street, do you hear music in a lot of the day-to-day life?
Always, always. Um, Especially, when you're in India, for example, like there's so many sounds in Mumbai. Like I was there for 7 years, and it's, at 4 a.m. You hear sounds all the time. It's very, very interesting. And so the auto rickshaws, or the tuk-tuk as they call it in Southeast Asia, it's they have a lot of like the motor, the engines always has like a rhythm. So naturally, like in Mumbai, I remember I would like you know listen to the rhythm of a tuk-tuk's engine a lot because it's so loud. So it would have like and then you'd be like, oh wow, like you can use that and like make it a beat. You can throw metal drums over that similar groove, and now there's like a bass for something. And yeah, like I also said, nature, I think I love nature because I'm spiritual. I come from that background. So yeah, I love being outside and just like being in that space, and everything around just like has a flow, and like a musical energetic flow, I think so.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's so interesting. So if you could come up with your own project now,
Yeah.
what would you like if there were no limits, you could do anything, what kind of a musical palette would you use?
Very, very good question, because I've been thinking about that a lot for
Oh, have you?
yeah, for my next solo record. And I was talking to my manager, and basically I told him I want to go to him with a few songs. And what I told him, which I'm also going to tell you, is that my next project, I almost feel like I want it in a weird, non-pretentious way. I want it to be, I want to try something that is as unlistenable as possible, in the sense that my mind is moving like so far left of center in terms of what I want to do now, because I feel like I've gotten so trained with my ear. Everything I listen to sounds familiar. I've written like hours and hours and hours of music, and I'm just finding myself more and more wanting to do something that just does not exist. And
Gotcha.
and I want to start from a place almost like, okay, even if nobody listens to this, like even if 10 people listen to this and they all hate it, like what would that be? And I don't know why that makes sense to me, but it just does. And so the
Well,
palette
yeah.
could be anything. Like right now, the palette I'm thinking it could be a mix of electronics, sound design, guitars, orchestra, Indian instruments, like whatever. It does not matter. The color doesn't matter. It's the overall energy behind it. Yeah.
Okay. So you're looking to just kind of be inspired or um, have your mind engaged with something new.
Yes, I think that's very accurate. Like under all of that, I think that's what I'm really yearning for,
Hmm.
is going back to that place of finding something which doesn't exist, which it's so hard to find music like that now.
Right.
Which is, it's just, there's so many artists, and a lot of them are also hyped and everything. So I just kind of want to go like, okay, if I stumbled across something where I was like, that is interesting, I don't know why I wouldn't listen to it again, what would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you pull it all together? If you want it to be something new, I would assume, because I think, music has this balance of being new, but then also having patterns so our brain can understand it, right? So just kind of brainstorming. So if you had all of these things, there's something new, maybe not listenable, what would be that uniting force? Would it be like a rhythm? Would it be, um, what do you think? What are
That's
you looking for?
Rhythm is definitely it. I can
Okay.
hear a lot of like definitely rhythms and just that would be the uniting force for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
More than harmony, melody, motifs or any of that. It would be like definitely very rhythmic. Very, very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about it because I was listening to your music and now hearing you speak about it,
Yeah.
I can see, oh, this is, you've written for, chamber ensembles, you've written for death metal, you've written for experimental, and now hearing you talk about it, it all makes sense. They're all very different, they're different instrumentation, but that unifying sort of rhythm and pace and flow is exactly, I can see after talking to you.
That's
That
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to transition now to talk about one of those projects. We
Yeah.
touched on it really quickly at the beginning, but in the current of being, can you explain this? I really think this is a really interesting project that goes along with your, stretching the bounds of what we're accustomed to when it comes to artistic. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, Cameron Kostopoulos, who's one of my best friends, we met at USC. He's a director, a phenomenal, director and just an amazing mind. And we've been working together since USC, since our first project together. And now, in the current of being, explores. Basically, he interviewed, um, Carolyn Mercer, who's based out of the UK, and she's a trans woman. And essentially, conversion therapy is still practiced in a lot of different countries and a lot of the states as well in the US. And,
Mhm.
you know, he interviewed her to understand more because she went through it. She went through conversion therapy, and he wanted to really get into her mind and find out more about this barbaric practice and her experience, and really build empathy around what trans people and just like people who go through gender dysphoria have to go
Mhm.
through in order to come out the other side and just be themselves, honestly, right? Like live and let live. There's so many people in this world. It's so complex, the universe. Like you can't really explain why someone is a certain way, but society tries to box everything in, and especially for someone like Caroline. And so yeah, it started off with one interview, and then Cameron just kind of built the whole project around that one Zoom interview.
Oh, really? It was over Zoom and
It was
everything.
over Zoom. It was just
Mhm.
he just took the audio and just built the entire world around it.
Mm.
So yeah.
So when an audience member experiences this, how do they experience this?
Yeah. So it's, there's the technical, mainly it's a lot of, the VR space is very technically driven.
Mhm.
And so, we use haptic suits and haptic vests basically. And you've got your glasses, your haptic vests, and it's pretty straightforward. And you kind of just have to go through the experience. You can look around, but you're actually strapped to a chair,
Mm.
metaphorically as well, because when you're going through conversion therapy, you are sitting on a chair. It's almost like you're being electrocuted, right?
Mm.
So um, yeah, you're sitting on a chair. You just have to go through the experience from start to finish. It's not as interactive in terms of like typical VR projects or experiential projects where, say,
Mhm.
you're walking around, but yeah, you just kind of wear the vest and you wear the goggles, and then you just sit and you just experience the world of Caroline and like Cameron and Caroline together. It's just a really stunning, it's dark, it's empathetic, it's beautiful in the way Cameron thinks about projects. And yeah, I can't speak enough about it. It's just a really, really one of a kind project.
Mhm. And what was your role in that project?
So, Cameron and I, we work very closely together on music, on sound design, on ideas, and just like coming up with what is this world going to be? And
Mhm.
especially in VR, where you can do so much more than say a film, because it's supposed to, you're not just watching a documentary, you're not watching a movie and you're distracted. You're locked in. You have to be a part of the experience from start to
Mhm.
finish. You can't look at your phone. And so you have a real opportunity to really push the envelope. And so Cameron and I, we are like, let's go crazy with the music. Let's try new ideas. Let's merge these worlds of sound design and music and kind of So build the world, even before, sometimes even before he starts the project, he'll ask me to write music. And so I
Okay.
send him sweets, tons of sweets, and that also informs his storytelling. He's very musical, so he will take the music and then kind of go like, "Oh wait, I can add this idea over here based on the music," and he'll kind of, just go from there. And so it's very collaborative from the beginning.
Hmm.
And another example is our very first project was a dance film. And I remember he was like, I just want the tune first, which is just a score. And we wrote a 6-minute score. And then I didn't hear back from him for like months. And then he just came to me. He's like, hey, the project's ready. And
Oh.
I was blown away. I'm like, he shot the whole, you know, project to the music, which
Wow.
a lot of great directors and great filmmaker composer duos have that kind of relationship.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a very collaborative. So your music was from the very beginning, you were starting with the music, even before you saw anything, like saw any of the cuts or anything?
Yeah, I think I did see a very a prototype, like a very rough idea of the project, and from there I just got inspired immediately. I went home and I just wrote a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
And is that where the electric currents came in? You thought, oh, I'm going to use electricity for this
Yes,
sound
I
design.
think that became like the core of everything. And both Cameron and I were like, okay, like how do we blend those worlds, like of sound design, of visuals, of music, and we're like, wait, what's the undercurrent, literally, and it is electricity, really. So,
Yeah.
which has energy, which has music, which can be used to almost, to hurt someone, but also like it's the thing that lights up everything else. So we're like, okay, cool. This is a great place to kind of hone in on the concept.
Hmm. Hmm. So what do you feel like the music's role was when you have so much going on? What was your ultimate goal for the music of this?
Definitely to create mood
Okay.
more than, melody, or more than to create subtext, because
Mhm.
the interview is there. It's more to like blend with the visual world. With obviously, I'm kind of scoring it with the interview as well,
Mhm.
but you're not seeing a film where someone's talking and the interview is, they're being interviewed. So you have to imagine a lot too. So I kind of leaned into, okay, the world is full black and white, right? So I wanted to be darker industrial sounds. I wanted to feel very like a lot of low end instruments. So, a lot of electronics, but I pitched it so low that it
Mhm.
almost feels like there's a moment where there's a generator, that's
Yeah.
there's a moment with the generator, and I'm like, okay, I built the sound, pitched it super low so it sounds like a generator, and then sort of started pitching it back up, and then it got into key with the music, and then from there I started to build the music. So it was very like sound design, worlds, subtext, but also, it's not a very melodic score in that way. It's more mood
Mhm.
based and just like intense and low frequency dominated, but also electricity and yeah,
You
bunch of
gotta
shit. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's very
not that
yeah.
organized, but that's kind of I'm just thinking as I go. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very world building
Yes.
sort of. Yes.
100%. That's the word.
Yeah. And so you sent him sweets and he kind of worked around it. Did did your director, did he like do music editing too, or do you feel like what you gave him was kind of what came out of it musically wise?
Yeah, it's the latter. So he would also come, to my studio, and we would just be there and like write together based off of the suites.
Oh, okay.
So I'd have the suites and then on another project, and those were like approved, right? So we had a world to kind of pull from. And
Gotcha.
so he would be there. He'd be like, okay, over here, like we can focus on X, Y, Z. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me do it. And then he would just be on his phone and I'm just like building. And then I'd be like, okay, check this out. And he'd
Oh,
be like,
okay.
oh fuck, that's awesome. And then for the final cue, which is I Will Defy You, that's on the soundtrack,
Mhm.
it's that like we didn't expect to pull out guitars. That was I was just like, hey, let's try this. Let's make it, intense, empathetic, but also like add something different over here, make it
Mhm.
more human. Because before this, it was very, electric and electronic and not of this world. But then we are like, okay, let's ground it now. Now that,
Mhm.
Caroline's experience, what she was speaking about was leaning more towards empathy and like, a united front. We were like, okay, let's use more organic instruments. So
Mhm. Well, that's really interesting because as we were talking about music wanting to be novel and to stretch people in their minds, and then but it also needs to be the familiar, and so you actually use that draw and that wanting of the familiar to kind of bring people back to like the humanity of what you're trying to do with the project.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So you take them on this whole arch. So even though it's world building, you're still, carrying them along.
100%. Because that's the goal of a project like this. It's not to, we don't want to turn people away. We want to just
Mhm.
show them that, hey, like, honestly, we are more similar than you would think. Like,
Mhm.
everyone is more similar than you would think. It's not that deep. Like, it's fine. Just live and let live. Like, all's good. Just, as long as you're not invading someone's space, and it's just the world's so complex. And oftentimes we try and put it in a box. So that was the idea. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
everyone should be invited to watch this, even if you disagree with the concept or the idea, or you feel like people shouldn't be themselves, whatever it might be, right? Like, we still want to make it accessible. Having said that, of course, there were people who had to, they couldn't handle the project, so they would take it out and
Yeah.
walk away. And
It sounds pretty intense, to be
yeah,
honest. If
it
you're
is
in a
very,
chair and being surrounded, that sounds like a really intense experience.
it is. And like the room, we made it super,
Yeah.
our art director, she made it super dark and like weird. And
Yeah.
yeah.
That would be
So yeah.
it sounds like a difficult thing to sit and watch.
Yes. And despite that, I was like, oh yeah, it's, we're trying to invite people in. Come on in. It's like, come to this dark room, come check out this, project. And expecting people to, yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's sometimes it's good to do that. And then when if they can make it through the whole thing, they have that grounding at the end.
Yeah, and you know
And
what? It's,
yeah.
I think, see, everyone's on their journey, right? So even if someone disagrees with it at the end of it, the fact that they tried, kudos to you. It's, that's still a win.
Mhm.
And either way, like, everyone's free to believe what they want. This is just what we believe, and we want to just put it out there. And the fact that it won South by Southwest, we got into Cannes, we got into Tribeca, we
Mhm.
got into so many prestigious festivals in the immersive camp. Like, it, I think it was also validating to know that, okay, cool, like, um it's artistic, it's interesting, but it's also like real and impactful.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So did you go to any of those festivals?
yeah, I didn't go to South by. I
Uh-huh.
was knee deep in work, but we did go to Cannes and we did go to Tribeca, and both
Oh,
were amazing. Yeah,
yeah. What was your experience?
it was incredible. I think Cannes was, it was, yeah. I think I was a little, definitely. I was like, oh, okay, it's a cool festival, but it feels more old school in terms of the kind of films, in terms of like, the big, the main Cannes, auditorium where they have all the premieres. Because I had
Mhm.
another project there too, and it felt like very old Hollywood, the kind of people and the decisions. But at the same time, the city was amazing, and the immersive part was super cool. It's only the second or third year doing immersive, so
Mhm.
they're also figuring it out. But as you get into the world of like VR, you realize, oh, it's a really small world. You see your friends. You're like, oh, you're here, cool. Like, we were at Venice 2023, and like, now we're gonna meet at Tribeca and this festival. So it
Mhm.
becomes like a family. You're just
Yeah.
going to different cities doing
Yeah.
similar things. So
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the art and a lot of music is going more immersive. Do you feel like that's a trend that's going to keep on going and keep building?
I think so, especially because of, I hate using this word, everyone's using it, but AI, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's so hot topic, even though it's existed for so long. Same with VR, same with all of these things. They've actually been around for a long time. But I think people are taking notice now more than ever.
Mhm.
And with the film industry being a lot dicier than it's ever been, this just seems like the next obvious space to kind of explore and, it's very guerrilla still. It's very experimental. Even in like these big festivals, like there are technical issues and
Yeah.
it's not quite there yet, but everyone's still like they want to be on board. And there's a lot of VC money that comes in, a lot of tech money, because obviously Apple's investing in their lens, like,
Hmm.
Meta has their glasses, and it's like, oh, cool. So this can be like social impact or impactful of cinematic projects that are now sponsored by people from corporate and tech, which, is good because you actually make money as artists who want to do their own thing
Yeah.
and you get a lot of funding from anyway. Yeah, so I think it's definitely moving there, and it's quite different from the typical Hollywood system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you feel like your composing style is different for an immersive one versus just a, traditional film?
definitely.
Is it?
Yeah, traditional film, it's there's so many factors for every project. There's a lot of voices or not. Sometimes you're working just with one director or you're working with a whole team of opinions.
Hmm.
And then what you're seeing on screen is, it's there's color, there is movement, there is sound design, there's dialogue, and now music already restricts you. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, there's this much space, and then you might fall into tropes, and which don't feel as exciting. Then it feels more like a craftsman job, which a lot of people enjoy, including me. However, I think what I really enjoy is the artistic side of things, and the VR space feels a lot more daring, a lot more bold, and you can really blend musical worlds like never before, and really write music that you love.
Yeah.
Almost like a video game, but even more experimental, I will say. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. That's really that whole topic, that whole atmosphere seems really, really interesting and exciting. And I'm excited to see where it goes
Yeah.
over the next, especially when as VR becomes more, pronounced in people's homes. Like, is that how we're going to be consuming media now? It's just
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see what happens the next few years.
100%. And
Okay.
it's not going anywhere, that's for sure. It's like
Yeah.
here to stay. So,
Yeah. And that's exciting. You're like right there in the ground floor of it.
yeah, I'm just, we just all love making shit, right? And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what can we do to like keep doing this? I think that's kind
Yeah.
of the goal. So
Yeah.
whether it's Hollywood, whether it's writing music, a record, for an artist, whether it's working on VR stuff, like working on a project that could get into like the dome in Vegas, like cool, that's sounds really dope. Like why not? So yeah.
Just always looking for it. I love it. I love it. So a question I have for you now is, now that you are exposed to all this music, all this experimental, are you still obsessed with death metal?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things which it doesn't really leave you. So I don't
Yeah.
listen to it actively anymore in the way that I used to, where
Right. Yeah.
like day in and day out, I was just collecting records and listening. But there are days where I'm like, oh, I just feel like this is all I want to listen to. And then I get it out of my system and then I'm like done. But in terms of the in terms of like composing, it's so innate to me. It's like so natural.
Yeah.
It's almost like I feel like, oh, tomorrow if I get pigeonholed into being like the metal composer, I wouldn't hate it because I'm like, that would be an easy job for me. I'd be like, cool, you want to pay me money to just like write this music? Like, it would probably be the easiest gig.
Yeah.
It's so innate and it's definitely informed a lot of my experiences, including rhythm, like we were speaking about earlier, right? Like
Hmm.
Indian music has always been very melodic and rhythmic. It's like
Hmm.
very complex rhythmically. And that, along with my metal influence, which is also very like rhythmic, I think is really shaped, which a lot of people will say, right? They'll be like, oh, yeah, rhythm is what shapes my composition, or this or that. But I think this is taken such an extreme form for me because Indian music is still like, Hindustani or Carnatic rhythms are so complex. And then
Hmm.
metal, they have like similarities in terms of how extreme and experimental and weird you can get with time signatures, with, tempo changes, with all of these things. So, yeah. It's
Yeah.
very innate.
You haven't forgotten your roots then.
No, never.
Good. That's good. This has been so much fun chatting with you. As we finish up, what piece of advice would you have for aspiring musicians?
Don't give up. You know, but at the same time, it's this weird balance of knowing what's realistic, being able to pivot without giving up. So I think like you like being delusional is very important in what we do. Like that is number one. You have to assume a lot of things, right? You're like, okay, I'm gonna be successful. Okay, I'm obsessed with this. This is all I want to do. At the same time, like if you're hitting a roadblock,
Mm-hmm.
don't be like an old timer, who is just stuck in their ways. They're like, well, I just know the classical thing. I'm not going to learn technology. I'm not going to do anything more. I'm going to go become a professor at university. No, don't do that. Like, know when to pivot, know when to be self critical as well. Of like, okay, cool. Like, I want to do this, but it's not working. What can I do different?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's musically, whether it's in business, the business part of things, whether it's in learning. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's a long game. Even I'm still very young in my career, but I think I look at certain people and I'm like, okay, that's a cool model to base it off of, which is longevity. How do you build longevity? You keep trying different things, you keep learning, and you just keep going, and then it'll click. So yeah.
Yeah, always keep learning. I love it. Yeah. Prateek, you've been so much fun to talk to. I have loved learning from you and hearing your perspective on things. I cannot wait to hear your new album and see. I bet I could listen to it.
Yeah.
I'll try. You let me know when it drops, and I will listen to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was great chatting, and yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for being
Christine.
here.